Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, my entitled neighbor freaked out on me when I refused to give her child my gun. She insists that I let her kid play with my loaded firearm. She ends up sneaking into my yard to steal my weapon and ends up injuring my dog when caught. This lady is insane and I honestly could not be more upset. Here is what happened. So the first one goes like this. Since this story deals with guns, I feel the need to point out first that I live in a state where I can open carry and I have a permit for my gun. Safety is my #1 concern, so my biggest rule is that nobody touches my gun except for me. Not my friends, not my wife, and certainly not strangers. I keep it on my hip and most of the time my shirt covers it up, so it is not that noticeable. Even so, guns are pretty common around here, so even seeing it does not usually cause any problems. Now, my neighbor has a kid that I personally think is a little bit out of control. I can always hear screaming and him running around outside like a maniac. I've seen him run into a tree before and act like nothing happened. I don't have kids though, so maybe this is just how 7-year-olds act nowadays. His mother is her own type of menace that wants the world to bend over backwards for her son. If he is playing in the street with his friends, she expects cars to go down a different road instead of making them get out of the way. One day I was doing yard work and the kid was outside playing with his friends. That was when he must have looked over and spotted my gun against my hip. I don't know what they were playing and honestly I didn't even notice them until he came up to me and pulled on the leg of my pants. Even though I did not like this kid, I was not gonna be rude to a child, so I stopped what I was doing to see what he wanted. Me? Hey there, everything okay? Child? I wanna play with my friends. Can we borrow that so I can pretend to be a bank robber? He points right at my gun. Me? I'm sorry buddy, but that's not a toy. You cannot play with it. Kid? But I wanna play with it and you are not even using it. Me? It is dangerous. You cannot play with it. He goes running off and I have a bad feeling in my gut that something is gonna happen. I don't want to deal with his mother seeing my gun and starting a bunch of crap, so I take it off and go to the other side of my backyard and then put it away with my tools. It is nowhere near anybody and my dog is near there and would bark if there's a problem. I was right about my gut and his mother came right up to me with a face like she had just swallowed a lemon. Why did you tell my little angel no? He is crying now because of you. Me? Ma'am, he wanted me to give him my gun to play with. Mother? So? Let the boy play. Me? It's not a toy. This is a real gun that he can very easily hurt or even kill somebody with. Mother? I'm his mother and I said that he can play with it. Now hand it over to him right now. Me? Lady, you're actually crazy if you think I'm gonna give your demon child my gun. Get the hell off my property. She storms away and this time I actually think that things are settled. My gut had let me down this time because it turns out that my neighbor was not done trying to F with me. I had gone back to doing yard work and about 45 minutes later I hear my dog barking like crazy. That is not normal, so I stop and run over only to hear a gunshot ring out. I get to my backyard and see that she had stolen my gun, and when my dog tried to alert me, she shot him. I did not even care or think about the fact that she was armed. I walked right up to her and grabbed my gun back from her hands. I started screaming and calling her every name in the book I could think of. Anything short of putting my hands on her, you can bet that I said, and had her running off back to her house. I called the police and tended to my dog, who was luckily alive. She was a bad shot and ended up just getting him in the leg. It was still bad though and I wanted to get him to the vet hospital as soon as I could. The police came and when I quickly explained what happened, they then let me go so I could take care of my dog. The good news is that he was gonna be okay and they got the bleeding to stop and removed the bullet. He was more upset at having to wear a cone to not lick the leg for a while than anything else. The bill was a lot, but I already planned on suing Karen for the money, in addition to the fact that police were 100% arresting her for animal abuse and misuse of a firearm. Civil court would have to wait until much later, but I did end up winning the money for the entire vet bill. I just wanted to gloss over that because I find the criminal charges much more interesting. She did not have any kind of gun permit, so just shooting the gun in general was illegal. Heck, probably even holding it was gonna be a charge, and of course shooting my dog got her a charge of animal abuse on top of that. Now, these two things alone were not actually gonna be enough to put her in jail, and she would have mostly ended up with community service or maybe house arrest. Digging deeper into her life though, they found something else to charge her with, and it related back to her son. Since she seemed to cater to her child, that meant he did not have to do anything he did not want to. That extended to things like going to school, where his mom just would not make him go. He did not have to see a doctor or a dentist or really anything that kids usually need. That plus a lot of empty alcohol containers in the house made it so they could charge her with criminal child neglect. That was something she could and did end up going to jail for, with the other charges stacking up against her as well. She didn't even try to deny not taking care of the kid properly and said that if he didn't want to do things, then he didn't have to. It's kind of hard to blame this behavior when that is what his mother brought him up thinking. So anyway, she went to jail and the kid ended up getting adopted by some other members of the family that would have a close eye kept on them. I honestly hope that being in a different household teaches him some things about the right parent-child dynamics. I can only assume that her plan was to take the loaded gun and hand it off to her child. Then my dog scared her and she ended up shooting him before she could get away with stealing it fully. I hate to think what would have happened if the kid actually ended up with a gun and played with it. And yeah, Ripe Stars, actually it makes me kind of angry to see that people like this have children and that kids have to grow up in a household like this. Therefore, I'm quite glad that the kid is now growing up somewhere else, and I hope this Karen won't see the light of day anytime soon. Either way, if you enjoyed the story, please don't forget to like the video and leave a comment, because that would help me tremendously. Anyway, the next one is titled Best Pro Revenge Ever. So this one is a double government employee event, and what you should know is that if you get the attention of a government employee and make them angry, they will make your life a living hell. Sorry, this is a long one. So the setup is that I was working for a local county government in the permitting department that handled drainage and floodplain enforcement. I received a complaint from a homeowner, a nice guy, that lived next door to a house that was part of an incorporated village. Not nice guy. This nice guy lived in an unincorporated portion of the county, and hence the call to me as an agent of the county. I drove out to the site and to investigate and discovered some interesting facts. The permitting agent for the village allowed the incorporated homeowner to fill his lot, affecting the drainage, which caused the unincorporated lot to flood every time there was anything more than light rain. Nice guy indicated that there was some tension between him and not nice guy, and part of the issue was that nice guy and his partner were a gay couple. This ran up a red flag for me, but in trying to be impartial, I took the information and some photos for the file and indicated that I would contact the village to find a resolution. I wrote a letter and then called the village inspector, Jack Wagon, to discuss. I was told by Jack Wagon that the village could do as it pleased and that I could do nothing to stop Not Nice Guy from doing as they pleased, as it was approved by the village. There was then a comment about those types of people, aka the gay couple, making complaints just to cause trouble. I was now on the case, and it was time to make sure everything done on the incorporated lot was 100% legal. At this point, the game certainly was now on, because if there's one thing that grinds my gears, it is bullying. I went back out and spoke to Nice Guy to let them know what I was up to, and also that I was not gonna let this slide. I then started investigating the elevations on the two lots and what fill had been placed on the incorporated lot. The Not Nice Guy came out and started getting belligerent about my presence and ongoing investigation. He incorrectly stated that I did not have jurisdiction over his lot and that he would be calling the police. I patiently listened and then pulled out my two-way radio and requested that the home base dispatch both a village and a county police unit to the location. I then indicated that since there was a regulatory floodplain on his lot, I did in fact have jurisdiction, and that I would be exercising my right to determine the impact of his fill activities upon that floodplain. Both of the police units showed up and I let them know what was going on. They were both appropriately agitated to have to waste their time and let Not Nice Guy know that I was within my authority to proceed with the investigation. A little while later, while I was measuring things, Jack Wagon showed up. He started berating me about harassing the village residents and threatening calling my boss and filing a complaint and so forth. I invited him to do so, quoting which parts of the code he should indicate I was violating. I was using marking paint to show the limits of the floodplain for the photos for the file, and what do you know, Jack Wagon's shoe got painted when he tried to stop me. Obviously, he was even more angry, as was the homeowner, due to very bright orange paint in the grass in his yard. I pointed out that I had done the same on the neighboring lots, but they just kept complaining. It was actually marking chalk that comes off pretty easily, and interestingly, I found two really wrong things on Not Nice Guy's lot. Number 1, there was fill placed in the floodplain, and number 2, a garden shed was built on the fill and partially within the floodplain. Both are a big no-no and are actually against federal law, so the course of action had two parts. Number 1, make the incorporated homeowner remove the fill and shed from the floodplain, and number 2, let Nice Guy place fill in their lot outside of the floodplain to counteract the fill remaining in Not Nice Guy's lot outside of the floodplain. I also told Nice Guy it would be a good idea to run a field tile on their side to drain the water that would inevitably pond up between the two lots when it rained. Predictably, Not Nice Guy and Jack Wagon got super angry when I sent the letter out that there were violations that either had to be corrected, aka remove fill and shed, or apply for a revision of the floodplain with the Army Corps of Engineers. Good luck with that. This then led to a meeting at the county office with Not Nice Guy, Jack Wagon, my supervisor and myself. Quickly things went to 11 and there was yelling by Jack Wagon about abuse of power, etc. The department head came into the conference room and told them both that they were wrong and that they should leave peacefully and comply or face the consequences, aka fines. The best part was that Not Nice Guy had to apply for a permit, and guess who was the one to review and approve it? That's right, yours truly. Now, I was following the letter of the law, but you have to know that poor government workers are underpaid and overworked. Strangely, the permit for Nice Guy was almost immediately approved, while Not Nice Guy had to have a very thorough review to ensure it was correct. You could make a case that I was abusing my power, but I can assure you that the timing for their review was well within acceptable limits. Also, how could I be held to account that they misfiled 3 times before they finally got it right? Generally, if you behaved like a civil human and came to the office, we would help you get things done properly, so the permit would go through first time, but Not Nice Guy decided he could do it all on his own, so it took him 3 tries. Had he come to the office, I would have given him the same service as others, but he decided to take the hard route, and therefore I did not give a single inch when it came to the submission being perfectly correct. Ultimately, the situation was resolved, but it took a lot more effort than it should have. Moral of the story, don't be an entitled homophobic a-hole. And yeah, ripe stars, I guess just some people want to live life the hard way and be douchebags. However, I dearly hope that people like OP teach these entitled idiots a lesson that they will never forget. But then again, some people, especially when they are older, they probably won't change. Either way, the next one is titled Crazy Entitled Karen. The cast is pretty simple, just replace me with N for neighbor and a little bit of backstory. So this happened around May, and I lived next to a married couple where the wife has a garden, which from what I've heard she has had for years. You might think it's just a few pretty blossoms and bushes, but nope. Her entire front left side of her yard and front yard, those patches of dirt you would see next to the stairs leading to the door, was covered on various plants, flowers and shrubs of all different sizes, shapes and colors, etc. Enter our EKs, both male, with the oldest being 11 and the youngest 9. These two live across the street on the right from us and had a nasty habit of crossing the street to pick N flowers with amazing skill, making bouquets for various reasons like special occasions, events and sometimes just to make mama happy. The worst part is that EM would tell them to do it. N has repeatedly told the two to stop to the point where she went over to talk to their mom about it. From what I've heard, it did not go too well. Apparently, EM did not want to buy bouquets at the store because they were too expensive and the drive is supposedly just a waste of gas, plus it's not fair. You have all of those flowers and you won't share? How greedy. Anyway, she would call the cops, but she knew they would just give her a warning or take EM's side, since around here the cops are pretty easy to lie to. Instead though, she decided to take matters into her own hands. A week later, when I left with my brother for a vacation from the house, I found thorny bushes scattered around her gardens, mostly in areas that made it extremely difficult to get through without getting pricked or cut a few hundred times. I found out she planted firethorns, blackthorn and my favorite creeping juniper bushes. When I asked, she simply said, "I wish them good luck." Not even a week later, I hear banging on the neighbor's door. Looking out the window, I see the EM fuming in rage while her kids were next to her, equally upset. Some even had bandages on their arm, leg or face. She now looked less of a Karen and more of a semi-fat soccer mom with quite a bit of cash to her name. The haircut was not the "being me your manager," but instead the "my son owns insert random unrelated company that is not even that serious." N, may I? EM cuts her off. "How dare you hurt my children?" N, explain to me how I hurt them. I did nothing wrong. EM, nothing wrong? Nothing wrong? Look at them. Presenting her kids to her full of bandages, very upset and possibly on the verge of crying. N, let me guess, hurt while playing? EM, no, your death garden did this. My kids are scared of your yard because those plants were hurting them. Do you know how much money it costs to buy them new clothes because their stuff is getting ripped and torn from the thorns? N, well, why were they in my garden in the first place? If they stayed away and stopped picking at my yard, this wouldn't have happened and you would not be yelling like you have no brain. I planted them because I thought they were beautiful. Not only that, but burglary exists everywhere, so it's perfect protection. After a little bit of back and forth, the EM leaves, but not without the threat of suing her and demanding the thorny bushes be taken away. Luckily, the kids stopped picking at her yard while EM gave death glares N's way whenever the opportunity showed. This was petty revenge executed on me by a friend, executed flawlessly. At some point back in the late 90s, early 2000s, my friends and I started trolling each other by sending each other links to what were supposed to be legit pictures, normally of each other hanging out, something cool, etc., but were actually pictures of plant stands. It got so bad that we started refusing to click links sent around and coined the phrase "don't plant stand me." Flares up and down for several years as my friends move away from New York City and around the country, but continue to share pictures and funny links, etc. We would also keep track of who had gotten who most recently, and I don't even remember what I had done, but I'd plant-standed one of them particularly bad. Fast forward about a year, I am getting married, everyone is invited, including this friend who is going to stay at my place during the wedding. She drives up in a rental and asks me to help bring her bags in. I am so excited to see her, I rush out and grab a couple and carry them into the guest room and get her all set up. It's a great wedding and my wife and I head off to our honeymoon for a week, saying goodbye to everyone before we go. When I get back to my house, another week or so goes by before I have to get something from the closet in the guest room. And that is when I find it. A huge wrought iron plant stand smacked in the middle of the room. This friend of mine found, bought, disassembled, flew to another country, reassembled and left a plant stand in my guest room, and I helped carry it into my own house. Needless to say, she won. We don't plant stand anymore, there's no point. And the next one, my little brother and his girlfriend came to stay at my house for the weekend, and the girlfriend was super self-centered and obnoxious. When they left, she forgot her clothes and toiletries because she left them sprawled all over my bathroom. About a week later, she and my brother moved into an apartment together. After he paid for the moving truck, deposit and utilities, she cheated on him with her ex and kicked him out of the apartment. This left him broke, homeless and heartbroken. In the days after the breakup, she kept calling and emailing him several times per day, demanding that he ask me to ship her clothes and toiletries back to her. I mean, it is really important, it's my North Face. My brother called and pleaded with me to ship them to her so she would stop having a reason to contact him. Being the loving sister that I am, I gathered up the really important North Face sweatshirts, shorts, underwear, shampoo, conditioner, soap and razor. I folded everything nicely. I then wrote a nice note apologizing for taking so long to mail them to her and let her know that I hope all is well. The note was written in permanent marker and the paper happened to be resting on the really important North Face when I wrote it. Unfortunately, the ink bled straight through the paper and onto the shirt. Also unfortunately, the shampoo, soap and conditioner caps were not tightly secured on their bottles and the contents leaked out all over the clothes, further spreading the ink. The most unfortunate result though was that her razor did not have any sort of protective cap or container and left little slashes all over the front of the really important North Face. She received the package and my brother never heard from her again. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to check out my playlists for more awesome videos. Also, if you haven't already, I would very much appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell to not miss any videos. Thank you so much, I will see you again tomorrow.